Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And let me just pick up the phone so the audio is more, because I was trying to do some audio tests earlier with this voice memo app, and I figured out that, you really got to hold the phone close to you to have great audio. But anyways, I am here tonight to actually do a surprising review because last week I was not in a good mood when it came to Better Call Saul, and I did not even watch more than like a minute of the episode or two. And, honestly, I'm glad that I didn't because it's horrible, it's terrible. It's almost just as bad as I thought it would be this episode, and it's really bad. I mean, it's just mind-boggling the way that the show that used to be such a great show is now something that I despise. Like when you see my rankings for this series, all the episodes basically from this season are going to be at the very bottom. And it's because everything is so terrible and so rushed, and the way that the story has gone is just so unsatisfying, and it reeks of, like, let's just say Game of Thrones, the way that I heard that ended with how, like, certain villains got killed, and it was so anticlimactic, and the main character, what they did with her, and all the stuff they did in that shitty piece of shit. I heard all about that, and I was like, yeah, this is what that reminds me of. And that was another situation where you had these two creators, and they just wanted to rush it to an end. In fact, with Game of Thrones, it was even worse because apparently they were offered like 4 or 5 more seasons, and they turned it down because they wanted to get to their next precious project, which was supposed to be a shitty Star Wars thing. And of course, that didn't work out for them, thankfully. And that's what it feels like with this. It feels just so rushed, incredibly rushed. And that's what really surprises me, is that I thought even though this show is so incredibly rushed, from the very beginning it felt rushed, even though it feels rushed. Well, actually, not from the beginning, but like from season 4, because season 4 was basically the start of a new show, in my opinion. Like seasons 1 through 3, that was the good show. Then seasons 4 through 6, that's Better Call Kim, or Better Call Kim written by Chuck, directed by Howard, music by Walter's Ghost or something. Like just everyone who hates Jimmy made seasons 4 through 6. Now, I was still surprised because I thought even though everything is so rushed, I thought maybe they still always had great ideas that they were saving for the end. With the whole Jeff the cab driver storyline, I thought, ooh, where's that going to go? Where's Gene's story going to go? Ooh, that has all this potential. And I thought, even though I'm not looking forward to it being rushed to an end, I'm still excited to see the great ideas that they had for the very end. Because usually nowadays, or I don't know how long people have been doing it, but I do it myself. You really write the ending first, and then you build up to the ending. And it's a way to where you can actually make the ending a lot more effective. And sometimes the ending won't work out totally. With my story that I wrote in February of this year, I had to change the ending because it was too vague and it was not acceptable. And so I changed it completely, and then I changed it again, and it was so much better than that first time. but the whole story was so much better too because I knew where it was going. And so that's why I thought, this final season, even though I'm not excited, I would have hoped that it would have been good. But sadly, it was horrible. It was terrible. And the worst part was when we started reviewing the show, season 4, we were very nice to it. And we were just, normal fans. And, I would say, I like that episode, kind of, but, I want to see where things are going. I like that episode a little bit. I give it like a B minus, but I really want to see where things are going. And you know what I get? You know what we would get, Safi and I? We would get people come on here, give negative comments, give 1,000 dislikes because their precious Better Call Saul is getting like a review that isn't 10 out of 10, masterpiece, perfection. And it was like a sad realization that even though this show is turning into something that it's not, even though it's turning into something that it never was and never should have been, you're going to have all these zombified, sheep, weak, loser, I already said weak, fanboy fuckers who come on here and they're so upset that people spoke honestly about the shitty show. And, it was season 5. We barely got any attention when we reviewed it. And so I kind of thought, oh, the fan base, the fanboys, they gave up. They ran away like little bitches so that they could go, downvote other people's IMDb reviews and report them if they're not the fake ones that all give it a 10 out of 10. Well, then season 6 came around, and this is how I could tell how bad the show has gotten. There were tons of new people who came on here. They didn't even have to comment. They would just like the videos. They just like the reviews, and the videos would get a ton of views compared to season 4. And then there were all these comments, especially for last week's episode and the week before that. And that's how I could tell that this show has gotten trash, is because you have other people who have come here after years of us reviewing the show, finally, people who actually speaking honestly about the show, saying it like it is about this shitty show and what it's become. And that's when I knew it. And it's unfortunate because they've had not 1 year, but multiple years to get this show perfected. They had the whole pandemic break. They had the whole tragic thing with, Bob Odenkirk filming that horrible scene with Kim that's probably one of the worst scenes in television history. The soap opera scene where she breaks up with him and it's like, wah, wah, wah. And that scene, it was so bad it caused him to have a heart attack between takes. And I mean, I don't blame him. If I had to act in a scene like that, then I would have wanted to keel over too. And I mean, it's just so terrible. It's like you got to feel bad for these actors that they got to put on these costumes. They got to act nice. They got to say, we're so grateful for the writers and their 10 out of 10 scripts. And in the back of their minds, they're like Kim in this episode where they're like the Stepford wives and they're just suffering and, they can't say anything about it because, they're Hollywood. They can't do that type of thing. They can't speak honestly anymore. And so I decided to go ahead and watch episode 12, Waterworks, which should have been called, Watery Diarrhea Works. Like, that would have been a more apropos title. I think that I was really I think the reason why I did it was not only to avoid Safi, because Safi, even from another room, she will react so loudly she'll spoil the whole episodes for me. And in fact, I was sitting up here in my room and she texted me a spoiler. She texted me all the way from downstairs a spoiler for the for the fucking finale. Like, just not a big spoiler, but just a little spoiler. And I was like, God, Safi, it could, you know, that was the moment where I became Saul. Well, actually, I don't want to become Saul. I'd rather, which kind of Jimmy would I want to be? That's a good question. Because you know Jimmy, he ends up getting, well, he's got to deal with Chuck. No thanks, I've already had to do that for a long time. Still have to deal with it. No thanks. But he does get to, he does hook up with Kim so many times that it's probably like, but then he has to deal with Howard and he has to, but Gene, oh, Gene gets to smell the smell of Cinnabon all day long. He could, I don't know, do you think he could pull the chicks he works with at Cinnabon? Do you guys think he could do that if he really, tried to use his Saul mojo or something? I don't know. It's tough. It's really tough right now because, you got Cinnabon and then you got Kim on the other side, and it's like, I really don't know. It is so hard to choose. I can't choose. I'm not going to choose. Okay, I can't choose. I can't choose that one. That finally there is a question that I cannot answer on this channel. There's finally something that has stumped me. So anyways, I decided to watch it as well because, I had spaghetti tonight, and spaghetti is my favorite food. So usually when I eat something that I like, it puts me in a better mood to watch something. So I thought I better just go ahead and watch this crap, because then I can complain about it, and I can say I like that and I like that. Well, here's the thing. Let's just talk about the first half first with Kim, Better Call Kim. I really did not like the opening, obviously. I did not like any of that. Remember back when Better Call Saul used to have montages, and they used to be very fun and creative, and they had this music, this popping music in the background, and it was so masterfully edited for all the montages. Remember those montages? This whole entire sequence could have been a montage with the Tequilas and the Rain song in the background. They could have made this into a 5-minute montage, and it would have been just as effective. So, this is another reason why I don't buy the overstay your welcome bullshit, is because the same people who say that have a 30-minute sequence that is almost entirely unnecessary, fluff, filler, bullshit. And the reason, I'll tell you why they did it though. They did it because they love Kim. They don't love Kim. They don't love the character. They hate the character. They think the character is mysterious. They don't want to figure her out. She's badass, but, not really, because, nobody can be as badass as Saul. That's why he got a whole spinoff called Better Call Saul. And then nobody can be as badass as Mike either. But the reason why they love her character is because they love the actress. And I don't blame them, because I think the actress is a very good actress. And I think that, she obviously was one of the best parts of the show back when the show was good. Like, she was so good as a supporting character, where even though the show wasn't all about her, she'd have these scene-stealing moments. Like in season 2, when she stood up to Chuck for Jimmy, even though she knew that he did what he did, she stood up to Chuck. And I think she was the first person to ever really do that for Jimmy. And it was a fantastic moment, that moment. And, we didn't ever get any moments like that in the later seasons. The thing with Lalo and Bad Choice Road, that was less about standing up to Jimmy and more so just her having a spotlight moment where instead of Jimmy doing anything, Kim did everything. But that was another good scene, though. I will admit, that was a very, very effective sequence. I'm not going to argue about that one anymore. So that whole opening could have been a montage, and I got to admit, there's stuff outside the episode that probably affected what I was saying about the opening stuff, and so I apologize for that. But sometimes it's hard to avoid. Like when we were watching The Lone Gunman pilot, and they literally did 9/11 before 9/11 happened, and that was pretty eerie to watch, and it was kind of uncomfortable. It was a similar type of thing, except, I guess you could just say a 9/11 in my pants. That basically was the opening of this episode. It was terrible. It was a lot of Waterworks, not in the good way. So Kim goes to, and I also still stand by the fact that Gene looks like shit. He looks like Gene looks like a Polish sausage you get at the fair. He looks like a fucking, like a rotten potato on the side of the road. Like he looks like complete dog shit. And then on the other side, you got Kim. And Kim still looks like the Virgin Mary. Okay, she's got fucking dark hair now. Boo-hoo. Whoop-de-doo. She's got dark hair now instead of blonde hair. That's the only difference to her character. And I just think, wow. See, they love the actress who plays Kim. That they love Bob Odenkirk too. But the thing is that they hate Jimmy. And they hate Gene. And they hate Saul. They hate the main character of the show. Ooh, Kim Kardashian spotted at Ohio Cafe. I don't know where that is, but... Oh, wait, no, Courtney? Oh, gross. Oh, gross anyway, but gross. Ew. What are they doing in Ohio? Gross. Hopefully they... hopefully they get out of here like that, like in a jiffy. They just fucking drive away like that. Please, get GTFO, Kardashians, because if I see a Kardashian on this property, you better believe I'm pulling out the fucking, the autograph book. A fully loaded autograph book. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding around. Anyway, but seriously, fuck the Kardashians. So, Kim goes back to New Mexico. First let's talk about the phone call. The phone call, to me, there's just been a lot of obvious build-up to what's going to happen to Jimmy with the last episode where she told Jimmy that that guy is a defense lawyer now in Albuquerque, the guy who Jimmy was friends with for a million years, and then he treated him like cancel culture in season 6. It really was like cancel culture if you think about it. Saul got canceled before he even was fully Saul. That's how bad that's how bad the writers think of Saul. Like the writers literally canceled Saul. They canceled the Saul show. They canceled him in real life. They cancel him everywhere. Like they hate him. The writers hate him so much that they made God give Bob Odenkirk a cancellation of his own. Like that's how much these writers hate the character. And so I'd just like to point that out for people who, they think this is great television. I don't. I think it's horrible. I think it's like watching punishment. It's like watching, those S&M videos where, there's like a wheel of spankings, and you have to choose where you get it, and then you have to choose which instrument you get it with, and so then you have like a number 9. And you have in the where, and then they pull out a can, and it's like, oh shit. And then for the next like 10 minutes, you see this person screaming in pain while they're hanging upside down naked, getting their puku putu puku tupuka struck over and over and over and over again. That is what this is like for me. But me imagining if I was that person getting hit in the puku putu puku tupuka. So anyways, this whole opening thing with Kim going to New Mexico and the whole call, and then the scene with her telling Howard's wife everything, and then the crying scene. To me, it all felt like a fan film. It felt most like, what if there was like a college kid in Albuquerque, and he was like a Make-A-Wish kid, and his wish was that he would get all the people who made Better Call Saul to come over and help him make his own version of the last season. Like, that's what this episode reminded me of. And of course, he's got a strong bias for Kim, and so it's just going to be all about Kim with a little bit of Saul and, his greasy, bad influence talking to her on the phone. And just, you can hear the bad influence over the phone with this guy. That's what this reminded me of. It was very unnecessary. It was boring. It was drawn out. It was painfully bad. It reminded me a lot of, and now I don't want to mean this in like a bad way, because I really loved Queen of Hearts, a Twin Peaks fan film. But it just reminded me of that in terms of how that movie focused on Annie, a particular character, the whole time. And it was really all about her, and it was very much just centered around her. The whole arcs are all centered around her, the character arcs. Even Cooper's story sort of mirrors her story. And that's what this reminded me of, the way that, like, they've centered the entire show around Kim, and this whole first half just confirms it for me. It was also lazy for me, because we could have just had more episodes, and we could have had these moments sprinkled throughout those episodes, and it probably wouldn't have felt as boring and bad. And then the whole thing with her confessing, it's just like, it reminds me too of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the shitty Johnny Depp version, where Charlie is like this goody-goody two-shoes, and, you just want to punch him in the face because he's just such a little goody-goody prick. And that's what Kim reminded me of in this episode. It's like she was channeling Freddie Highmore as a child in this episode, when she's like, Howard's wife, oh, look at me, boo-hoo, he didn't suffer, I promise he did not suffer, and, sorry, but he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, wah. That's what it was like to me. It was like, this is, Okay, that's what it made me think. So that's over. I mean that's all an F minus, obviously. Terrible, terrible. I'm so glad that I didn't watch it when it came out. It was not worth it, and honestly, like I didn't miss anything at all. And I didn't miss anything the whole episode except for a couple of performances, I guess. And that's where, well, let's also talk about the Breaking Bad scene. It was a very sad scene, and I do admit that a couple of the sequences in this episode are made very well in terms of they're very perfect technical wise, like in terms of the music and the shots and everything. Like the scene with Saul and Kim, it was very sad because the rain outside too. It was raining really harshly, and I thought that was actually very well done. Except her talking with Jesse, I thought that was very unnecessary. It was just another stupid fan service sequence, and I really don't think that it was worth it. It was lame. It was just stupid and dumb. However, it was like, okay, whatever. At least it's in color. At least it's not in black and white, and it's this pretentious college Make-A-Wish kid who's making the show. Then we get to Gene. Gene. Gene's story has been nothing but a disappointment for me, a rushed disappointment. First off, you had the recasting of the Jeff the cab driver. Obviously, that guy, the original actor, he had scheduling issues. However, I genuinely think that the writers had an entirely different story planned, and I think as soon as they recast him, they changed the story around. Because the story just wouldn't work at all if you had the original actor. He doesn't look like a kid. He doesn't, and this guy doesn't either. I mean, he looks like Michael J. Fox when he's playing his father in Back to the Future Part 2. It's very, very weird. He's got like a leather jacket on, like he's like a man-child or something. I don't know what's up with that. And very, very poor storyline. The only thing that I really liked was, I got to admit, like, Nippy is growing on me a little bit because I really just loved the pacing, and I loved how it was all centered around one last scam. To me, that's what it felt like. It felt like he's doing a scam with a purpose, and he's just doing this one last one to get rid of these pieces of shits. And it felt like, this was actually pretty, it wanted to be a Hitchcockian episode. And if it was, then it would have been really, really good. So it was close to being great, but other than that, I know that, Safi. Why are you texting me that? I already know that. God. She just texted me something I told her like a week ago. She told me that both actors are going to have new series. But anyways, this whole thing with him breaking into the house, he's just totally stupid, and I really don't like it. It's just more character assassination where he's stupid, he's running around the house, he's having a drink, he's playing around with things because he's having fun. Remember that when Howard said that? You guys had fun. You liked it. And it's like watching a little kid running around this house. And of course the guy is still asleep, and then he just magically kind of wakes up at the perfect times in the plot, and you just have this whole stupid thing with like, look, there's an urn, and the urn is of a real dead pet, and it's like, drama. Like, that's this show's version of drama now. Like, don't you guys miss when this show's version of drama was having the twins stand up on a building's rooftop and do finger guns at a little girl? I mean, remember that? Remember how scary that was when Mike was watching over Kaylee in the pool and the cousins going like, pew, pew, and Mike was like, oh shit, you guys are... Once I drink my Ensure, I am coming over there. That's what he said. That's what this show's drama used to be like. So that's what I mean when I say that the show has really gone downhill fast. And it's really because of the rushing thing. It's because of the rushing syndrome. Because when you rush, it's to where you just have to get everything done as soon as possible, no matter how little it makes sense, and no matter how badly you destroy the characters. So, and then of course we have probably the stupidest thing to happen the whole season, maybe, with Jeff, the cab driver. And it was so bad that I laughed out loud. Like, I was laughing for like an entire minute. That's how bad it was. Where he just randomly runs into another car because there's a police car sitting behind him. Oh, God, this fucking sucks. I'm not even gonna... If you guys can't figure out why that's bad, I'm just gonna... My silence and my laughter speak louder than words could ever speak. It's so fucking stupid. It's just so bad. It's so bad. How could you give this fucking shit a 10 out of 10? Oh my god. So then we have more stupidity from Gene, where he talks to Marion on the phone. Oh no, first he does like a weird sex role play with Jeff, where he's like, hey, hello, son. You are gonna get the best legal representation in the world. We all know he was thinking that while he was on the phone. Like, he really loved saying that again. He was like, you're gonna get the best legal. I'm gonna have you out by lunchtime. And then, of course, after that, he's like, ooh, I'm going to call Marion now. And then he calls Marion, and he says the word Albuquerque. Oh, no. He shouldn't have done that, should he have? He did something really stupid, like he's been doing the whole episode. And, oh, wow, I'm really surprised the writers would have him do that. Ooh. So, then after that, of course, Marion looks him up on the plot convenience laptop, and he comes over to her house to pick her up. And I will admit, it was very, very well done. A scene like that, where they had the shot of his glasses and the little reflections in his glasses. I still will say, I really think that in Nippy, when he was stealing the clothes, it would have been so much better if after every clothing item he stole, all the clothing items turned to color, and then everything turned to color at the end. I think that would have been a lot better, honestly. I think, it would have been a lot more effective visually having all this huge mall turn into color, rather than just these little reflections in his glasses. And then he has this little confrontation with Marion, and she says probably one of the funniest lines in the entire series, and they try to treat it like it's a dramatic line, where she says, Nippy was never real, was he? And Gene's just like, ooh, oh no, I'm hurting this old lady. Ooh, boo-hoo. Like, it's really funny. It's a very funny sequence, because it's like they're really people took this sequence seriously, like her saying Nippy was never real. I will say this though. I will say this. I really think that Carol Burnett gave a better performance in these couple of episodes than Kim did in the entire series. I mean, I would say that it's really too bad that we didn't get to see more of her, because I really, really loved her acting. I would give her acting an A+, for all these episodes. In fact, I was really expecting for it to be an Arsenic and Old Lace type situation where she turned out to be the one forcing Jeff to be like a criminal. Like, that would have been so much better, because this whole story kind of parallels Jimmy when he was a young teenager and he had the whole sex offender incident where he did the Chicago sunroof and then Chuck had to get him out of it. To me, I kind of think it would have been better in this situation for it to be the opposite, where you'd have the Chuck figure, in this case, Marion. You could have had her pushing Jeff into being a criminal, and Jeff doesn't really want to, but he's going to, and that would have been actually so much better and so much less expected. And I think that would have been a lot better. You still could have had some heartbreaking things happen. Like, you could have had her betray him, and it would have been like, God, he got betrayed by an old woman. Like, that would have been even better. Like, just imagine how fucking, it would have been so much more effective than this kind of jizzy soap opera scene. That's the only word I can think. Jizzy. I don't know why. That's the word that just immediately came to my mind. And then you have this really stupid thing where Jimmy picks up like the phone cord and he wraps it around his hand. And, that's when I knew that the writers really, really hate this character, because first off, they had Kim fucking this other guy on camera. We never got to see Kim and Jimmy do anything on camera except for like kissing and then start to do something. So that was another indicator, but this was a big one, because even Chuck, remember in season 3, Chuck said, Jimmy would never hurt anybody. When they said, do you think that Jimmy would have hurt you with the fire poker, that he grabbed? And Chuck said, Jimmy would never hurt anybody. But, like himself, like in terms of like physically hurting someone. And so the fact that the writers tried to imply that he was going to strangle a defenseless old woman is probably one of the most sickening things the writers have ever done in this whole series. Because it's like, it's bizarre. It's like they don't even know their own characters. So the show ends with him going on the run. And I will say, I still give the episode a big fuck you. And so that without further ado, I will be back to... Oh, wait, why did I say without further ado if I'm going to be back in a while? Oh, God, why did I say that? Anyways, I will be back to review the finale with Safi. I am also going to have a cinnamon roll. I got a cinnamon roll from McDonald's, and I'm going to have that for dessert. And I'm doing it to celebrate the show that once was. And I'm also doing it to celebrate something different, which I'll tell you all about in the finale review, because you guys are not going to expect what I say. Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. We are here today, Safi and we are here to, well, I tricked you because you thought I was going to be celebrating and reviewing the end of Better Call Saul. Well, actually, I had you all fooled, because I am here to review and celebrate the ending of a different show entirely. And it's called Better Call Kim. And I am here today to celebrate the ending of Better Call Kim, the show that has been going on ever since season 4, the terrible disaster show with terrible writing, terrible everything. It just completely like miserable shitty shit. Finally, that show is coming to an end, and I am so thankful that they're not going to overstay their welcome and properly, tell a complete story. I'm so glad that they rushed it to an end, because I don't know if I could have stood a season 7 of Better Call Kim, with this irritating bullshit story that they tell with, Jimmy's evil, Chuck was right, Kim is the golden child. That's basically the entire story of season 6. And this episode, it was trash, it was lame, it was playing it safe, it was everything I thought it was going to be. I didn't want to say it, because I thought maybe I'm not giving the writers enough credit. Maybe they'll not play it safe and they'll do something unexpected. But I kind of knew from the very beginning. I had a picture in my head of Jimmy standing in front of the court, and he's confessing to everything he did wrong, because he's just so evil and so bad, Jimmy bad. And then he goes to prison, and he's really happy. And it's almost like The Producers by Mel Brooks. And, there's more stuff in this episode where they kind of tell you he's going to prison, like with Kim. And she's talking about there's this Middle Eastern restaurant called Topkapi. And, of course, at the end of the Topkapi movie, they all go to prison. So it was like they're just telling you he's going to prison. Safi, what do you think about the episode so far?
I was confused by probably 50% of it. They kept doing these flashback. Well, we're just saying that they're flashbacks, but I don't think they really happened. And I was thinking, what would be a better way to do something like that? To have these people come on, the actors who people really like.
Well, to just tell a whole story. Like, us fans thought that, they said they did an interview when season 2 came out, when they said, we're going to tell Breaking Bad from Jimmy's entire perspective. And I thought, if they're going to do that, it'd be like a whole season, and it would be like a whole different perspective we never saw before, and it would be really interesting, and there'd be new stories to tell, but no.
Well, I thought it could have been something like The Christmas Carol, or something similar, where Mike is a ghost and Walter's a ghost. I mean, they are ghosts. They're dead. He's not dead, but they are. And then who is the other one? Chuck, and he's dead. So all 3 of those people are dead. I think that's interesting, too, that everybody they chose to do well, I guess it had to be that way, because they weren't.
They did the same thing in El Camino. I mean, come on, Safi. Remember when they had the flashback with Walter and the breakfast? They had a flashback with Jane, the girlfriend who died. They had a flashbacks with Todd. So they did the same thing in El Camino. And these flashbacks just really reminded me of El Camino. The way that they were so fan servicey, and they were so unrealistic, and they were basically the same scene over and over again. Like, they were just completely revolved around time travel bullshit, and they were totally unnecessary. They were complete wastes of time, and it was just an excuse to see those characters.
Well, what was funny was that, I'm just making up my own story, and it's been done before. If you've seen any Hallmark movies or whatever, you've seen this with a bad boss visited by 3 ghosts during the night, and they change everything.
Oh, I bet they do.
What he could have done is changed and gone, admitted something, which that does, to me, that goes against his character.
Yeah, it completely does.
But the thing is, the thing with these weren't flashbacks. They never happen. Especially the one with Mike, and they're out, Marco says, in the desert. To me, it looked like Omaha because of some of the scenery. And I haven't been to Omaha, but I mean, it's like Iowa, and corn farms and corn. And out west, it's like the Navajo reservation. And Albuquerque is a little south of there. And,
yeah, they were like, to start off the episode, they were like, oh yeah, Bagman was people's favorite episode. Everyone. So let's have flashback in Bagman. And let's have Mike and Bagman. And let's have it be where they come across water. And
yeah,
that never happened.
That would never happen. Sorry. It just wouldn't happen. And it's just like Dark Winds with that swimming area. There's no swimming area.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, they showed New Mexico in Dark Winds, and they had like a lake in the middle of the desert.
They don't have that.
It was like this pool that they crash a helicopter in, and then Emanuelito strips and goes swimming in the water, and she goes swimming, and she goes swimming, and
and that's another thing. They don't swim because they don't have any opportunities to go swimming, and therefore they're not used to it. I'm not saying no Navajo in the planet swims. Obviously, she's not Navajo. She's Cree in real life, which she's from Canada. But there were a couple of Navajos, and the boy who was in it, I don't know whether he might have been Navajo. But I mean, you don't. The thing is, there's no water, and what I found out is they have a set, so they made.
Yeah, it was fake.
They made that.
This was the same type of thing where it was like, okay, this is obviously BS. It looked like a mirage. It looked like
that's what I was,
a hallucination.
That's why I was confused for like 50% of the time. I was confused about the legal stuff.
Yeah.
And what happened. It didn't make any sense to me, and it was unfair, and I didn't like it.
Safi, he did that on purpose, as we'll talk about.
I know, because of Kim, blah, blah, blah. But
Kim.
And the thing with these flashbacks, and I think the only reason why they did them, well, there's a fan service thing, which is to please people who really like the characters, although I can't imagine that Hank's wife was everybody's favorite character. Anyway.
Well, she was the best character they brought back in the episode. So.
Yeah, she did a really good job.
But anyways, let's get back to what we were talking about. They're doing this Bagman flashback, and, you have Jimmy, and he's asking Mike, where would you go if you could time travel? And Mike says he would go back and not take his first bribe. And the first thing I thought was, yeah, duh. Like, I figured that out in season 1, back when he did that monologue where he admitted, I was the dirty cop always. It wasn't ever my son who was dirty. I was dirty. Mm-hmm. But I didn't get in the water to go swimming like Emanuelito. But I was the dirty one. And, so it's obvious, like, that he would go back and not take bribes. Like, you don't need to say that. It was just a complete fan service thing of, let's have a scene from Bagman, and then Jimmy says, I go back and get rich with Warren Buffett, and Mike says, is that what life is all about? Money. What I thought was, this is really gay. Like, this is like a after-school special, Better Call Saul. It was basically like last week, where remember, if you guys, you obviously watched the first part because it's attached to this part, but I said that Waterworks was like if a Make-A-Wish kid from Albuquerque made Better Call Saul. And this was the same type of thing where it was just so contrived and so unnatural and forced. And not only was it rushed, but it was forced. And I thought, this just shows how bad writers they are. They claim that they have to rush everything because they don't want to overstay their welcome. But then they have this unnecessary fluff scene in Bagman that never happened.
No.
And it's like, was that really the best use of their time? Really?
That was the only other thing I could think of. It was a filler.
Yeah.
Because they did take quite a bit of time when he was with Walter, and it looked like in the basement, it looked like in the drug lab.
No, Safi, that was when they were with the disappearer.
Oh, it just looked so, because they had the camera way up high, and they were looking down into the room, and it seemed like an awfully spacious room.
Oh, that's just trick photography, Safi.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. So anyway,
it did not look spacious to me.
None of those flashbacks looked real to me. It looked like he was dreaming.
Yeah, they all look fake and phony and contrived.
And I don't believe they were real. I don't think they meant them to be real flashbacks.
Yeah, they did, Safi.
Did they? Are you kidding me?
You're giving them too much credit, Safi.
Gee, I hope not, because they didn't look like flashbacks at all. They looked like something I don't know, he conjured up in his mind to feel better, because when did he start having these?
Having what?
These flashbacks. Was he in jail?
This episode.
No, I mean, when was he in jail?
No, Safi, remember, there's a flashback that plays, and then the episode starts where he's on the run. So they treated it like a real flashback, and then the episode starts. So they were supposed to be real flashbacks.
That's just real, because they weren't very good.
Yeah, they were terrible.
I thought they were fake the whole time. I just wasn't sure what they were trying to do.
We'll talk about them as they happen in the episode, but, spoiler alert, they're very, very weak and lame. The whole episode was just totally lame, and it just all felt like fan service-y, and like they're playing it safe. So then we get to Jimmy is on the run, and it's really funny because everyone was so excited. Everyone. They said, oh my God, it's going to be so intense and fun watching Jimmy on the run. He's going to, I thought he's going to put on different disguises, like in the earlier seasons, like when he did that one commercial for people to get commercials, and he put on that fake disguise. I thought he was going to do something like that, and it was going to be really, interesting and intense to watch him try to get away. But instead, it was just a 2-second thing where he avoids a helicopter, he runs into an alley, and then he hides in the dumpster.
And it really lasted 2 seconds.
And really, it was just more pleasing symmetry bullshit where, the creators said, we like to have pleasing symmetry between the shows. Well, he did that in season 1 where he was looking for the sandpaper paper, sorry. He got in the dumpster. And so it was the same thing done over again.
Yeah. This time he wasn't dressed as nice, and ooh, God, he got dumpster juice on him.
And it's funny because it was exactly like how I said, where, in the opening, they humiliate him by having him drink from a pig's trough, and then he gets in the dumpster and he gets dirty, he gets homeless people juice all over him, and, garbage. He just gets drenched in garbage. And it's exactly like my fake pitch last episode where I said, Jimmy, he walks outside and he steps into a puddle and it splashes and it makes him dirty. And then, his picture of Kim, it's all smudged in so he can't see her face ever again. It was the same type of thing where it's like they're just humiliating him, dragging him through the garbage, literally. And it was just sickening, like watching, like, it's like these writers, Chuck and whoever, they hate this character. They hate him.
Which, it was kind of disconcerting when he did that thing where the young guy said, I can't do this robbery because that guy has the same kind of cancer as my dad. And then he ended up firing. He said, well, I'm going there myself because I spent weeks trying to get all the goods on this guy, and I don't want to, that time that I spent doing that, I don't want it to go to waste. And he says, but he has cancer. I don't care. And he said something real snarky, which Marco probably remembers because he has much better memory than me.
I do. I just don't want to repeat it for the millionth time.
But, I mean, he just was so awful. And
now all of a sudden, it's like, no. And so he gets taken by the Albuquerque police and transferred there. And he's sitting in this room with these lawyers. And what's funny is that as soon as he walked in, we saw Marie. And it was like, oh, of course, they're bringing in Hank's wife. So it can be like a sad, sympathetic thing in court. Wah, wah, wah. Hank's wife, ooh, boo-hoo. She's a widow, ooh. You know, and so he saw that too. I do admit, I really like this whole sequence where he saw her walking in and he was like, oh, look what they're doing to me. This is what they're going to do. They think they're gonna outsmart me. They're gonna punish me. They're gonna throw me under the jail with the help of Marie. Ooh, boo-hoo, Marie.
Shoplifting.
Wah, wah, wah. The shoplifter.
I remember that.
The Great Bowler. Because they did like a show where the Breaking Bad cast went bowling, and Marie did like the best job at bowling out of the whole cast, and it was pretty surprising. And so he's sitting in this room with the lawyers, and I was really excited because I was excited for him to get out and to get away, because it almost seemed like, you know, he's going to flip this on them, and he's going to get a really light sentence, and he's going to do all this legal maneuvering and just totally destroy them. And he's like, you know, I heard that you never lost a case. And he's like, get ready to lose one. And I was like, yeah, I'm really excited for this. And then he says, bring in Marie. Bring in that woman in there. And they bring her in, and he just totally rips her to shreds. He hears this little sob story from her. My husband, he would always rescue people with a smile. You know, surface with a smile, Safi. Oh, like it fucking made right. The restaurant. And Jimmy's just like, this bitch. And so then he does his own little sob story in front of her where he kind of talks about this whole fake Breaking Bad timeline where he was always scared of Walter. At which he was. Like, remember when Walter was like, we're not done until I say we're done?
Yeah.
Like, he was not happy with that. You know, he was... So, they did a little bit of retconning actual history from that show. And... but then he basically... He destroys her and everything, and he gets this really light sentencing... this deal that they make, and it was really amazing. Like, I really loved seeing the interaction between him and Marie. I was never expecting it, but I really thought it was the best part of the episode. It was very, very good, that part, in my opinion. It was like a classic Breaking Bad type of scene, to where, like, It reminded me kind of when he met Jesse's parents, and then he made them sell the house for really cheap, and he destroyed them. It was kind of like that scene to me. And so I really loved that scene. But then they ruined it. Safi?
Yeah?
Wake up. They ruined it because right after that, right when they're going to start making the deal, they do this time jump thing where they rush ahead. And we see all these pizza boxes and Chinese food boxes. And it's like, oh, of course, we're not going to get to see the legal maneuvering. It's just going to happen off screen,
Which
very conveniently.
didn't make any sense to me.
It was rushed.
It was all said and done. That's what I mean.
It's like, why couldn't we have seen that? I was looking forward to that. Like, it was so good until that.
And they made the episode longer.
Yeah.
So instead of having these flashbacks the way they did, I mean, they were not short little half a minute flashbacks. These were lengthy conversations, especially with Walter and Mike. And they could have done did a little bit more explaining. And it's just like it's again where the people who are watching the show, it's left up to them.
It's left up to us to make up the story.
Yeah, to do the story. And I like, why?
I don't like
We're
that.
not paid to do that.
Yeah, I'm not the writer.
I'm watching it to be entertained. And we're doing more because we're viewing the show. But still, that's why people watch the show, because they think that they're going to be entertained by it. And it's not entertainment when you have to sit there trying to piece clues together to decide the narrative.
I was cheering for him when he destroyed Marie, and she acted like such a bitch,
She was
too.
terrible.
Like, it was so amazing seeing him versus her, though.
I don't know which was worse. I don't think there's any other woman in the whole, at least this season, who was worse than that. And I know that her husband was an FBI, he was
She was
on the
always
ATF.
She was
maybe.
always a bitch, Safi. Always.
I know.
But she's really good. She's really good at acting because I thought she did the best job out of all the actors they brought in to do the flashbacks.
She did.
Like, she was the highlight of the episode, her versus him. Like, it was so unexpected. And then they just completely undercut that amazingness by doing the time jump. And it's like, oh, okay, we already made the deal, 7.5 years. And then he's starting to do some more stuff where he's like, as Steve Jobs said, one last thing. I also thought that was weird, like just the amount of times in this episode where he's like mentioning like billionaire people, like, you know, all these famous rich people. It was like, take a shot every time he says time machine, and take a shot every time he mentions a famous rich person. Yeah. Like, that's what it was like this episode. And it's like, this is just so out of character. And people have said this too. This whole season, all the characters, the key is they've all been out of character. All of them. Mm. And that was another thing. And then he finds out that Kim already talked about the Howard thing, and let's talk about the ice cream. Now, Safi, you remember the mint chocolate chip from season 5?
I remember the ice cream falling on the pavement and melting. They made it very artsy.
I can't ever have mint chocolate chip again because I associate it with Lalo. And it's like, what the hell? Like, all right, Safi, would you never eat mint chocolate chip ice cream again if you, like, witness someone get killed while you're eating it? Like, who cares?
I know.
Like, mint chocolate chip ice cream is the best. Like, who cares? It's food. It literally has it has nothing to do with whatever happens while you eat the ice cream. Like, seriously. Because just imagine how many things you wouldn't have if, like, oh, I can't have that. I associate it. Like, there was this one time when I was a kid, and I had a baby tooth that was loose, and I was eating nachos in school, or traveling tacos. and one of my baby teeth completely came out with the nacho chips.
Huh.
And so, because that happened, I should never eat nachos again? Like,
Yeah.
that's just stupid. Now he's gotten over his fear of mint chocolate chip ice cream. And he says, I want a pint delivered to my jail cell twice a month.
Yeah, that surprised me. That was actually kind of funny.
It was
asking for these things.
It was funny, but it was queer, because it's like, oh wow, he's gotten over his fear of mint chocolate chip. Like that's almost just as bad as Marion saying Nippy was never real, and they treated that like a dramatic line. So it's basically all about Kim, though, because after he finds that out, he gets really upset, because it's like, oh no, Kim is going to be sued by the bitch wife of Howard, who, she never cared about him until he was dead. Like, she probably has like a cardboard cutout of Howard in her bedroom. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Howard, that I never cared about you when you were alive. And, because that's what she's like. It's like she never cared about Howard. Like, seriously. And so now Jimmy, he basically sacrifices himself to help Kim. And he does this whole stupid-ass thing where it was like Chunk from the Goonies. Safi, remember that?
Yeah, I do.
When Chunk was like, oh, okay, I'll tell you everything. In first grade, I puked all over the place in the movie theater, and then everyone else started puking, and then I stole a cookie from my mommy, and then I cheated on a history exam. Like, that's what that scene was like, Safi. This dramatic scene where Jimmy's like, okay, I made Chuck's liability insurance go away. And I did this awful thing with Howard, and Howard died. And the poor Howard, wah, 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 wah. And he didn't even do it because he felt sorry about it. He did it so that he could make Kim know that he's changed, and that he has changed. He's gotten better, and he's evolved as a person. Oh, wait a second. We're forgetting something, Safi.
What?
Chuck in season 3 of Better Call Saul.
Oh, God.
In Lantern, he says, Jimmy, it's always the same thing with you. You do something bad, and then there's this showing of remorse. And, just skip it. Don't have any regrets. Just skip that part, because you're only going to end up hurting everyone around you anyways. And he does the same thing here. He shows the sign of remorse, and it's just all a bunch of bullshit. And it's like this totally stupid thing where it's just all about Kim. Like, oh, he's not gonna, he literally, he chose to do 86 years in prison instead of doing 7.5 years. And I'm sorry, but I don't care how much he thinks Kim is hot. I don't care. No man on this earth or in the universe, no matter how goody-goody he's feeling, how charitable he's feeling, I gotta help people today, no matter how charitable he's feeling, no man in the universe, no woman in the universe is going to trade doing 7 years in prison for doing 86 years. No one on this planet. But they treated it like a serious story. And it was so dramatic. He kept on looking back at Kim. He's wearing a suit like Saul would wear. He did this thing on the airplane. They had an airplane scene where he makes the marshal write down notes about, I'm going to do new testimony, just so that Kim is notified. Kim. So everything ended up being all about Kim.
And contrived, too.
And so then they had a flashback. Safi, talk about the flashback instead of going to sleep.
Which flashback?
Walter.
Oh, I don't get that either. Like I said, I thought it was somewhere else, and it was not what I thought. And I think the thing about the conversation, well, it was about the time machine. Walter is really, he should have been a professor because he has so much knowledge about his work and quantum physics. And he said, and so, Jimmy talked about this time machine business, and Walter thought he was insane and stupid, and said, practically said as much, and said there's no such thing and there couldn't be. And because it seemed like they were in it, well, what would you do? What would you change? And then what did you do? Did you ever work on like a real big project or something like that? And Walter said, yeah, I had this business. And then he made explain them all. And
yeah, he talked about gray matter. His company, Gray Matter.
Yeah, so he explained the whole thing, which we've heard in the past. He was short.
It was another thing though, where it was obvious, and it was just very, very obvious, and it felt like it was just all done to serve this message and to serve this theme of like regret, changing the past, and finish that up, Safi, because I'll have something to say at the end of that.
Well, it was this thing about if you had a time machine, you would change these things, and if Walter had a time machine, he could have changed being cheated out of his company. And then Jimmy says, well, is it still, does he still exist? Oh yeah. Does it make any money? Oh yeah. And
I could have helped you out with that.
And then what did Walter say?
I would never have hired you as a lawyer to do that.
Yeah, I thought that was disgusting. I just like...
You don't remember, Safi, that's how he treated Saul in Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, well, they showed that scene when they were in the trailer. The one, what was it, the last episode with Jesse and
no, that was the
one before it.
Yeah.
And where... Don't tell him. Don't say it. Don't talk about it. Don't do this.
Don't talk about that. Don't talk about it. Don't say it. Don't say it, Jesse.
What in the hell? He did help them out. And all those other bad people who were in prison with him are going to treat him they're going to treat him with respect.
Oh, so you're jumping ahead now.
Well,
so
the thing is, he's not a bad lawyer, and they treated him like crap.
Well,
he's treating him like crap.
Then Jimmy says, you forgot, Jimmy says, I would go back, and I took this slip and fall when I was a teenager, and it made me have bad knees. And it's like, oh, God, it's another callback to him saying he has bad knees and Breaking Bad? God, how many times are that? That's another thing. Take a shot every time he says, I have bad knees. I have bad knees. In the Breaking Bad, I have bad knees. But the foot doctor who takes, or not the foot, the whatever, chiropractor. My chiropractor, she does everything. And that was like a jokey type of thing. But like how many times, like it's just like fan service. Like, oh wow, you just totally undercut that moment. Like, oh, it's all about my bad knees. Like just something totally irrelevant. The one thing I'll say though was it was kind of interesting. There was kind of like a parallel where, this is after Breaking Bad. And Saul, the sad thing is they could have made this very interesting, but they didn't. But the thing is that you think about that Walter is always going to be remembered by everyone except for probably Skylar. He is always going to be remembered as an evil monster, drug kingpin, horrible person. And he can't do anything about it to change that. And Howard is always going to be remembered as like a cocaine addict, and he can't do anything to change that. Gus is always going to be remembered as that. Mike is always going to be remembered as a bad guy. All these people, they're dead, and they can't do anything about the fact that they're always going to be remembered as evil people.
Yep.
But the only person who can do anything about it is Jimmy. And Jimmy can kind of see that. He can kind of see all these other people, they're going to be remembered in history as evil. And so it was kind of like an interesting thing where can Jimmy change that? And can Jimmy do something good and change? And so it's too bad that it wasn't better, because I thought that was a great idea. The fact that, not the time machine thing, but the fact that, you have Marie, and she was talking about Walter being like a poisoning, evil piece of shit, and that's what everyone thinks of Saul at that moment. And so can Jimmy change that? And so, but it's just too bad because they didn't do that story. They did I'm just going to sacrifice myself for Kim so that she'll like me again, and she'll take me to Red Lobster.
Not when he's in prison.
Yeah, she'll bring him Red Lobster poos. She'll bring him some cheddar biscuits. And she'll come in as his lawyer with her bar card or her lawyer card. Remember that? She's
Right.
like, I just figured out after all this time, I just conveniently figured out that I have a lawyer card that'll get me into prison. and we can have conjugal visits together. And Jimmy's like, ooh. That's another thing that happens. So, Safi, talk about the Chuck flashback scene.
Well,
There's a Chuck scene.
It was kind of almost like at the beginning.
No, it wasn't.
God.
It was at the end.
Why? I don't think so, because at the end they were like at odds.
Oh, okay. No, this was before Better Call Saul, I think.
Well, this was when he said, he says, I don't know why you keep doing this. And this is when Jimmy, remember, he took care of his brother faithfully.
Yeah.
And he didn't even complain about it. And it was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Because one thing, he had those lamps that were the swing lamps that took oil. So he had to keep replenishing the oil. This is, those camp stove lamps or camp lamps. And then where you put the fuel in and then you have to light the wick. And then
he had to go to motels to steal the ice.
Yes, he had to go to those ice machines in the hotels to get and you're talking about a cooler, regular cooler size. You're not talking about a little cooler. You're talking about a real, kind of a large cooler, because he had to store his drinks and his perishables, like meat or maybe salad fixings or whatever. Cheese, butter,
bacon.
Yeah, all these perishables that had to have refrigeration. I mean, look where they are. They're in New Mexico. It gets hot. And no matter whether does he even have an air conditioning?
No.
He couldn't. And he couldn't have a fan neither.
No.
Either. And so, you had to have that ice. I mean, that just would be totally necessary for survivability.
And there was this very convenient thing where, or this very contrived thing where Jimmy says that, it's on me this time. And we know that he's struggling. He doesn't have any money. And so the fact that he paid for all these groceries and he doesn't even want Chuck to reimburse him. He's making all these extra trips. He's doing all this stuff for Chuck.
And not complaining.
It just felt so contrived, though. Like, oh, look at me. I'm doing all this good stuff. And, it was just totally fake and gay.
And he didn't say it, though. That wasn't said.
No, Chuck pointed it out.
Yeah, Chuck said that, but not Jimmy.
Chuck was like, you're doing all these nice things for me. And it's like, yeah.
Why are you treating me like shit?
And then it was sort of like a sad scene because Chuck, he really wanted to talk with Jimmy, and it was like he was lonely, and he didn't have anyone to talk to, and so he really wanted to talk with Jimmy, and Jimmy's like, no, I'll go ahead and go, and it was sort of like a sad scene. However, it was just another very fantastical scene. It only really worked because Chuck's acting and the fact that, we miss the scenes from seasons 1 through 3 where they would talk to each other in the house, because those were always the highlight scenes of episodes where they would talk together.
And those were good. That was a good time. And
then, of course, they ruin it completely by having a book on the counter that says The Time Machine. And it's like, God, again? Did you see that, Safi?
No, I didn't. Unbelievable.
I was wondering. I was like, Safi.
Unbelievable.
I told you. They didn't say Time Machine, but they had it on the book, and they did a zoom in of the book's cover.
Well, they were talking about all these, like, the financial times and all that, so I imagine when they were talking about that, if there was a book on the counter, they would have flashed onto it.
No, they zoomed in. They did a slow zoom in.
Weird.
Gay.
Really weird.
Very gay.
As if that mattered. It would have been better to do ghosts, making them into ghosts of the past or something.
It would have been better to just have real flashbacks.
Or have real flashbacks, but that might have been too much work.
It might have been, they didn't know when to leave the party. So they're staying in the party for too long.
Well, by doing all these easy things, having guests come and doing these flashbacks that weren't really real, that's extending the party.
And they brought back Bill, the attorney, so that he could defend Saul, which is what everyone predicted.
Yeah.
I was really sad because I really wanted to see the girl that he talked to in season 4 in the finale, where she was rejected for her scholarship. I really wanted to see her. I also was disappointed we didn't get to see the cab driver, because
we never know what happened.
He was in a similar situation to Jimmy, where he was going to get in trouble. And, of course, Chuck swooped in and saved him, and then he moved him to Albuquerque. And I thought, is there going to be something like that with the cab driver, where it's like Jimmy sees that, like, this guy, he deserves to have a good future, and he shouldn't have his reputation ruined by this thing that we all did. But no, nothing with the cab driver.
I'm not. Now you make me think about his mother, Carol Burnett.
Yeah.
And how she decided that Jimmy was the bad guy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I don't comprehend that.
See? See, Safi?
I think the only thing I could think of is the way he was talking when he said she would have to go get him, and he explained a couple little technical things between Albuquerque or New Mexico.
Oh, he mentioned Albuquerque. That was the key.
And then where they are and how they're different.
He said,
legalese.
You can go down there and pay the cash right now. It's not like in Albuquerque. And she was like, why did you say Albuquerque? And it was like, oh, that was so stupid, too. That whole thing.
Well, yeah, that'd be the only thing. And you could tell when he said that because she got quiet.
That was really funny, though.
Somehow she decided that she's going to look him up, and she does Ask Jeeves. And I did look up Ask Jeeves because I remember it, and I haven't heard about it in years. And it doesn't exist anymore as Ask Jeeves. I think it's ask.com.
Yeah, and so around the time when this show happened, she would not have been able to ask Jeeves. She would have had to ask.
Right. Or Google. Just Google it.
So then we see, Jimmy, and he's on. Oh yeah, and then there's this whole. I was talking about the attorney. They brought back Bill only to have him serve virtually no purpose.
No, he was kind of like he had to have some sponsor. They didn't call him a sponsor, but another legal term.
He was just a goofball.
But he wanted him there because the guy the guy wanted to decide because he wasn't doing what Jimmy should have done to keep his years smaller, his punishment smaller. But then the judge also didn't want him to leave and said, "No, you're staying. You're not leaving."
It was another pointless cameo. So then Jimmy is on the bus to prison, and probably one of the most weird. It was another scene that just felt like a weird fantasy sequence where this guy turns around and he's almost like the actor of like a 1990s heist movie where he gets into a bunch of hijinks the way he was acting, and he says, "Wait a second, you're Saul. Better call Saul." And then I'm just laughing even thinking about the scene, Safi. You said it was good.
Well, I thought it was kind of like I don't know. I didn't even think about that this would happen, that they would be so reverent of him. The other prisoners. I mean, you wouldn't, unless it was somebody you'd never heard of him.
He helped everyone.
Yeah, he helped everybody.
And so they all loved him.
Anyway, yeah, they all loved him, so you won't worry about him. They'll be getting special things for him if he wants, probably, and
they'll help him break out.
I don't know about that, but he's in like Montrose, I think, Colorado prison. I was telling Marco when I was a kid, we went there to that prison, and we got a little souvenir. And I don't know why we went there, and I don't know why it was like a tourist place. And the thing we got was a rock mounted on a beautifully varnished piece of wood. Now I'm talking about a tiny little, less than 3 by 5 inches.
That rock thing? That stupid rock thing?
That's from there. It was something that one of the inmates had made as like a little tourist craft. Maybe to make himself some money, you know.
You got a souvenir from Saul?
Yeah. Who would have thought? See, he wasn't. If he would have gotten the original deal, he wouldn't have gone there. And they said it was a horrible place. He said it was a really bad place.
Yeah, he said that he wanted to go to West Virginia.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where it was that he wanted to go. I couldn't remember because that went real quick.
And that was with the deal that he screwed up on purpose for Kim. For Kim. Yeah. And I gotta say, I'm so, like, if I had a time machine, I'd go back to season 3 and kill Kim so that she'd not ruin the show. The character, obviously. I would have killed her off and not because I don't want her to be on the show, but because she ruined the whole show. I mean, the writers,
they made her ruin the show. They did it. They ruined the show.
I know, and so therefore it's like, okay, go back and kill her character so that she won't ruin the show and so that the show will be good. Because that was not good for him to do that, for him to throw away his life so that he can be in prison, so that Kim can have her little Red Lobster specials every month. That was not good.
And neighborhood get-togethers.
But he's in the prison bus. All the prisoners are suddenly like, "Better call Saul! Better call Saul!" And they're all chanting, "Better call Saul." And Saul's just sitting there like he's really proud of it. He's really like, "Yeah, I'm the king." And he said, "No matter what, I'm going to end up on top." And that's what he said. And so it's like, it was so queer. Like, I think
it was just a lot better than being at the top of a dug hole and and then getting shot in the head and falling dead into the hole. That's what I thought was preferable. That's why I didn't have
it. Was
it
was lame.
It was lame, but I never thought, and it was stupid for me to think this, because he had helped all these bad people, bad meaning that they had committed some kind of crime. And he had done nothing but help them.
It's like when you go to your relative's house for Christmas and you think, oh, what'd they get me for Christmas? And then they give you some socks. Like, that's what it's like, Safi. It's just this...
Well, he's the one that put himself there for one, like what I just
said. For Kim.
He was supposed to go to West Virginia.
For 7 years.
For 7 years. Now he's going to be there for 86 or 89 or something.
Yeah, so he's going to die in prison.
He's going to die in prison.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. And it's like, he already served enough time. Like, I'm sorry... But all these people say, oh, he finally is taking responsibility. But it's like...
He had to hide.
Yeah, when he lived as Gene, he was living in a prison.
Yeah.
A sweet, smelly, Cinnabon prison.
Yeah.
But a prison nonetheless.
Good thing I like Cinnabons.
And so he already served his time. Sorry, he did not deserve to even go to prison, in my opinion. But 7 years was good, but the whole 86 thing, screw that. And then you had the whole gay line where he said, maybe I'll do good behavior. Maybe I'll show good behavior.
That still could happen. That's another thing. They don't have control over all that. And he could still get out earlier. He's not a serial killer. He's not.
But he was accessory after the fact.
Oh, that can only last so long.
Of Hank. Marie treated him like he personally pointed a finger gun to Hank's head.
He was nowhere near there. And he didn't even know about it.
No.
Who knows if he even found out about it unless it was in the paper. He didn't know that was going to go down.
Like, Marie blamed everyone but the Nazis. It's almost like Marie is a secret Nazi.
Whatever.
But that whole prison bus scene, Safi, you
that was almost like a musical, a little tiny musical.
No, that was like the scene in Spartacus, where all the people said, "I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus. I am Spartacus." That's what it was like. Or on The Walking Dead, where everyone would say, "I am Negan," or no, wait, "We are Negan. We are Negan." You know, that's what it was like. And it was very queer. And then he goes to prison. He's having fun. He's making bread, and it's almost like being Gene. And so it was like, you know, he already served his time being Gene. He doesn't need to be here. But then they have the ultimate queer thing to end the episode where Kim comes back. And she's still looking fine with the brunette hair. There's nothing wrong with her. She doesn't have any grossness about her. She's just totally perfect with this brunette hair. And she says, "My lawyer card, I can use it to get into prison anytime I want. It'll never expire." And then they have this stupid scene where they smoke together, and they're creating a parallel. They're creating a symmetry between that scene and the scene in episode 1 of season 1 where they're smoking together, and that's the first thing they do. And I just thought, God, like, of all things, Safi, of all the things they could have done, this is what they did.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the worst part, Safi. You know what the worst part was. You know.
You mean the stupid little motion at the end?
Oh, Safi. Saul is... Oh, yeah, and he says, "I'm Jimmy now." But then everyone still calls him Saul. So it's just totally pointless.
No, he might as well just be what they want him to be because
It would have been better.
it's to his benefit to be that way.
And it would have been better on the bus too. Maybe if they chanted Jimmy or something, like if they said Jimmy,
Didn't know
Jimmy,
that name.
Jimmy. But it would have been better in terms of, versus saying better call Saul, better call Saul. Like, come on, Safi, you got to admit that. It would have been better to do Jimmy, Jimmy. You don't agree?
No.
Well,
That's made up.
but it would have been the first time in history that everyone would have been cheering for Jimmy.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's the point of it.
Look at it that way.
Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it, Safi.
I understand.
But then he's standing in the yard, and he's just standing there like a sad, pathetic emo child. And that's what it looked like. Like they had this music. And they even, Safi, they are so obsessed with their gay symmetry. And gay in terms of weird, not gay people, obviously. They're so obsessed with symmetry. Not the symmetry of Kim, but the symmetry of, they took the same music that they played while Kim and Jimmy were smoking in the first episode, and they put that same music in this at the end. I'm like, this is the worst. This is like an emo Lifetime movie nightmare. Like, this is so dumb. It's so dumb. It's just so bad. Like, just this is not my ending of Better Call Saul. This is not. I'm just gonna pretend like this never happened because it just ruins everything. It's just so terrible. But then they end it all with him standing in the yard, and he stares at her from afar, and she's leaving prison. And what does he do, Safi? You knew I would hate this too.
Yeah, I was so... He didn't watch it at the same time I did. But, so when I saw it, I thought, oh my God, he'll have a fit. And I was really, I wish I could tell him. I was just about... And I had a terrible stomach ache. And I thought, if I didn't have the stomach ache, I may not have been able to control myself. But they did. Remember and Marco went on and on about this when it happened.
Because
before.
it was stupid.
And she did it, not him.
People treated it like this epic moment where Kim broke bad by doing finger guns.
Finger guns, one at a time, each hand.
And then she blows them.
Yeah, well, anyway, he did that. He didn't say a word. Just smiled and did the finger guns to her. And what did she do in response? Did she smile?
She just kind of looked at him with yearning.
Yeah, it was a positive look. It wasn't a negative. I didn't think she exactly full on smiled, but she was like, yeah. Oh, God, please.
He did the finger gun
And
thing.
I thought, oh, Marco's going to have a fit. He'll probably give the whole show an F without even thinking about anything else that went on in it.
No, I was actually more upset about the 86 year thing. Like, if he hadn't have done that where he had just done the 7-year thing, I would have been very upset about the finger gun thing. But I was actually so upset about the sentencing thing that I didn't, it was just like at the end it was like you're kind of ruining this now even more than you already have.
Yeah, so.
I just couldn't believe that though, because
I couldn't believe it either.
And I'm just theorizing here, but I genuinely think that the people who make this show, I think that they watch our show, and I think they purposefully put that in there to piss me off.
Well, you know what they could have done? There's one channel in our area. Now, I don't watch TV anymore, really, basically, except for this. I don't watch the news, the weather. I just look on YouTube or whatever. and just maybe read little news flashes that come across. But I do not watch TV news, and so I just watch TV for a purpose, like I just said. Watch this show, for example. And they had this thing where they did this commercial to advertise this TV news channel with a thumbs up. So everybody they play this happy music and everybody's smiling, and then they do this thumbs up and they advertise in so many words the news channel. And they could have had something like that, but this finger gun is dumb.
It didn't make any sense because that moment, when she did the finger gun, she was doing that to symbolize that they were going to destroy Howard. And so the fact that he's calling back to that moment, like, what is that? Like, so...
I know, especially when he was devastated.
They were both devastated.
About his dying. And it was so needless and real. I mean, all the stuff they were doing was like playing a game. But this was real. And it was ended up in a bad way.
And that finger guns thing was the start of that. And so why would he be calling back to that moment?
Yeah, I was shocked.
It didn't make any sense.
Very goofy, and I was in shock.
They did that on purpose to screw with me.
I don't know why they did it.
Yeah, they did. Guarantee it.
It's too bad. And maybe if they just if he'd done a thumbs up or something, which he could have done that all along. That would have been really easy to do whenever. I know one of the dumpster diver does that every time they are done with the dumpster, looking through it, or even getting some good finds. She sticks her thumbs up in the air, her thumb up. And so some people do that. He could have done that all along, every time.
I think it would have been cool for him to get in the Better Call Saul stance and to, like, raise his fingers up to his ears like he's, doing Better Call Saul.
I don't know.
That would have been fun. But I wouldn't have done anything like that. Okay, here's how I would have changed this stuff around if I had the script and I had the chance to change things around, since apparently we're supposed to be the writers, Safi.
Well, I don't like that because...
Even though we're not getting paid for it.
I don't like that.
So, what I would have done was, I would have had no prison bus sequence. I would have had Kim, originally with Breaking Bad, they were supposed to have Jesse go to prison. And then Walter would break him out, Rambo style, and shoot up the prison. And run in there like Rambo to save him from the Nazis. Instead of that, I would have had it with Saul, where instead of that, it would be Kim, and it wouldn't be like that where she shot up the prison, but she would help break him out of prison along with the inmates there somehow. And I would have had the start of the breakout be all the prisoners would be shouting Better Call Saul. And so the shouting of the Better Call Saul wouldn't have anything to do with like a gay prison bus chanting sequence, but it would have been the start of like a riot. And so then all the prisoners would have rioted to help Saul break out of prison. And then he would break out of prison with Kim's help, and Kim and him would drive off into the sunset. And then the next thing, well, not like that. I'm just saying in terms of they drive off together and escape.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, you would see like a bus. You would see like some sort of a bench in the middle of nowhere, and you would see like a cigarette, and the cigarette would have like lipstick on it or something to symbolize that Kim and Jimmy were there, and that they're just they both disappeared together.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
That would have been so much better, and I just utilized all the stuff they did, but did it way better than they did, so that's what I would have done. If I had their script, and I would have changed it around.
That's a good, yeah.
Isn't that better, Safi?
But they were there, and you see the remaining thing on the burning cigarette on the seat, and both of them, symbolizing that they had left
Yeah.
and were gone to
Wherever they want.
wherever, Mexico, whatever.
Would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Beat that, Safi.
Okay, well, should we conclude with it? Oh, do we have to rate it, our food rating?
No, we have to give it a letter, and then we'll rate the season, the second half of the season of food rating, or the whole season, I guess. I would give this episode a D+/C-. You know, I really loved the sequence with Marie and Jimmy. I really loved that whole sequence, but everything else I thought it was lame and tame. I thought that there were some good ideas, but they were not executed very well. And overall, I thought it was a very underwhelming finale. It was not worthy in any way of being... I mean, this is definitely the second worst finale. Like, I would say, from best to worst, Season 2, then Season 3, then 1, and then 4, and then 6, and then 5. So...
Wow. See, Marco went and rewatched everything. I haven't done that, so that's how you can believe him when he says what he thinks about them, because he just recently watched it all.
But you will be ranking it all, Safi.
Yeah, I know. My favorite thing not.
What would you rate the episode? Because you told me last night you give it a B.
Oh. No, I have to give it a C, which means it's just average. Because I did like the fact that he wasn't shot dead, because he did not deserve that kind of. In fact, that they were almost really, what would you call it? They were amused by his hiding in the dumpster. And then when he was at the police station, I don't know if Mark remembers this, but
I do.
he was standing there. Who was he talking to on the phone? He's talking about getting that lawyer. And the guy who was just like his sponsor or whatever. They had a name. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. You know, it's a legalized term for that kind of person in that kind of role. Because he was a good lawyer and he could actually represent himself, but I guess he wasn't allowed to.
And all the police officers were sitting there watching Saul's commercials and laughing at them.
Yeah, well, at this point when he was on the phone, they were all looking at him. They were staring at him. They were like, who is this guy? Because remember, he did all this stuff back in Albuquerque. They were seeing him for the first time.
In Nebraska.
In Nebraska, which is like, you don't see that kind of crime or anything close to it there. I don't believe. So, you're talking about the middle of a cornfield. Anyway.
So you love the episode. You give it a C.
No, I gave it a C. And I didn't understand some of the legal stuff. I did not understand these flashbacks and what they were trying to do with them. The only thing was 1, filler, or 2, fan service, which I don't like that, frankly. I mean, it just sounds stupid. Fan service. I mean, what is this, high school? I just don't get it. Why can't they refer to it as something else? Or do it differently to make it... I don't know. I just think, like, we've never had anything like that before. All these years...
You could just call it fluff, I guess. I mean, it's...
Well, it's just filler then. Just call it filler.
What it means is you have characters or stories or lines that are there that aren't necessary to the plot, but they're there to call back to better things. Like, so, why have Walter there? To call back to Breaking Bad. Why have Mike there? Why have Bagman flashback? Because people loved Bagman episode. You know, that's why. It's called fan service.
Yeah, I don't like that. And so I didn't understand that, because I'm like, I've been reading all these things this summer, and one was like, there's ghosts involved in the solving of the mystery. And I was thinking, why can't these ghosts just visit him? Because they're all dead. Every single person he thought about was dead. and it certainly would fit in that they were ghosts. And why couldn't they do it? I guess the question would be, why would they come back and visit him? Why him? Because he's going to get caught.
Well, actually,
Walter didn't give a crap.
They could have made up to where, you remember, he bangs his head in the cell. They could have actually made that into like a Christmas Carol type of thing, where he hallucinates ghosts during the night when he's all alone.
Right. It would be a hallucination.
Could have had that
after hurting his head. Yeah, see how easy that is.
Whoops, we're writing the show for them now.
We're writing the show, and I really don't like that. I consider myself a writer, not a fiction. I haven't been very successful at that, but just nonfiction, and I really don't like that. I don't think it's fair, and I don't think that where everybody who watches this is watching it to be entertained, whether they overly like it when it shouldn't be liked at all, or people just watch it and try to use a watchful eye where they don't think everything's great when it isn't great. And we're not being paid, and we shouldn't have to write the show for these people. They have the job. Do your jobs. Open your future episodes of whatever you're going to do. You do your job, and don't listen to anybody when they say, well, you can't do that, we don't want to spend that much time, we don't want to overstay our welcome, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do. Don't listen to that. Just do your job. You're a writer. Don't you think of yourself as a good writer? If you are, then write.
Well, just have fun. Like, to me, it would be so much more fun. It would probably be more stressful, but it would be so much more fun to write and to make a show that has 24 episodes, has 10 seasons. It'd be so much more fun to do that because you get to experiment. You get to have more complex stories than Jimmy confessing so that he can save Kim. And then we don't even know if she gets saved, too. Like, we don't even know if that'll help her or do anything. It's just like, he did it because he feels very sorry. He feels very sorry.
And Howard's widow was going to do a class action suit against her.
Chuck was right. Hashtag. You know what I have to say still? F Chuck. Okay, that was a very popular hashtag back in seasons 1 to 3, the good seasons of the show. Everyone would say, fuck Chuck, fuck Chuck. Like, instead of chanting Better Call Saul, they should have been chanting fuck Chuck.
Yeah, because he was mean.
You can't redeem him with a fan service flashback where he feels lonely.
Too damn bad. And he kept it quiet. I don't think anybody really knew about it. Not until near the end. Howard didn't know about it at first, did he? I thought he found out about it near the end.
No,
but he had a mental problem. And of course, the guy who worked at the law firm, black guy, I'm sorry, I don't remember his name. I think he had glasses. He was skinny.
Ernesto found out in episode 1 when he wanted to tell Jimmy what he heard on the tape, and then Chuck did this manipulation where he yelled at him and told him not to tell anyone.
Yeah.
And he purposefully did that so that Ernesto would tell Jimmy somehow.
Yeah.
And, oh, God. Chuck. Ooh.
Okay, I think we should finish up.
So you give it a C. I give it a C minus. I will say, even though I give Nippy an F minus, I give Fun and Games an F minus, I give a Point and Shoot an F minus, I do think that those episodes are better than this, because I think that this was just very lame and playing it safe, and so I would say those 3 episodes are better than this.
I don't know about that.
But Breaking Bad and Waterworks are not, so those are below it. So, Safi?
Are we doing the
Safi?
food thing of anything of it?
I already told you that. I was caught. you know it's time to end the video.
Okay. Well, if you like this, which it kind of went on a little bit long, but Marco will edit it.
I won't be able to work out today, that's for sure.
Press the like button and subscribe. We welcome new subscribers, and because we like feedback, and we also like to hear what you have to say about what you think about what happened or didn't happen, or the way it happened. So anyway, goodbye.
Bye-bye.